Look at this rock. It's covered in dark spots, arranged in an odd pattern. Patterns like this almost always can be traced back to life forms, microbes, bacteria, or other organisms. However, this rock is not from Earth. It's from Mars. The stone was just recently discovered by NASA's Perseverance rover, and in a press conference held yesterday, the team asserted that it was the strongest evidence to date of alien life on Mars. Look at this rock. At first, it seemed like nothing more than another slab of Martian mudstone. Then came the dots, dark, perfectly round, spirally arranged in rings across its face. Perseverance spotted them in Jezero crater last year. We have confirmation that the lander vision system has produced a valid solution. To kilometers above the ground, they called them poppy seeds and leopard spots, harmless nicknames to conceal their bizarreness. From orbit, the rock looked unremarkable, yet up close, it became unsettling. The dots weren't splashed at random. They were paired, positioned, and aligned as if following some forgotten code. When Perseverance zoomed in closer and its cameras locked onto the pattern, the science team froze. Geometry like this is not carved by nature on Earth, unless life or intelligence is involved. Yesterday, in a press conference that rattled the room, NASA's Perseverance team asked themselves, did we get this right? Do we think this is a sign of ancient life on Mars? It might be the strongest evidence yet of an intelligent Martian civilization, one that could have existed millions of years before Earth had even formed. We have long searched for microbes on Mars, assuming any life would be small, primitive, and struggling in the mud. But now, confronted with these findings, we must imagine something very different. It's possible that our neighboring world was once home to a species so advanced it could reshape its planet, leaving behind an artifact designed to last forever. Perseverance was built to scoop mud, drill cores, and search for microbial biosignatures. Jezero crater was chosen because, billions of years ago, it was a lake with clay-filled delta channels and minerals that could preserve traces of past habitability. Yet here, on a wind-swept ledge of stone, the rover stumbled onto something no one expected. At first, the team assumed the dots were nothing more than stains from wind and dust. However, the closer Perseverance looked, the less that idea fit. Its microfocus X-ray instrument mapped the chemistry across the rock at micron scale. The dots weren't just darker patches, they contained iron, sulfur, and phosphorus, the very components that comprise blood and living tissue on Earth. In some places, the ratios of calcium and magnesium mirrored what we see in bone. Meanwhile, trace elements such as zinc and copper grouped together in regular patterns like mineralized joints or tendons. In other words, it was as if a once living structure had been locked inside the stone and slowly turned to mineral over time. Following this, the rover's ultraviolet Raman spectrometer swept the same regions. It was designed to search for carbon compounds, not life itself. However, its scans revealed carbon atoms bound in long chains attached to calcium phosphate, the same combination found worldwide in bone and cartilage. These chains weren't smeared randomly. Instead, they layered into filaments, forming an organized, tissue-like pattern. Tiny lines appeared under the laser, emerging like pores and channels, spaced and branching exactly as veins and capillaries do on Earth. Instead of a smear of organics locked in clay, Sherlock was picking up something closer to fossilized soft tissue, cartilage, marrow, or their Martian equivalents, frozen for billions of years. Taken together, these results made the slab appear less like mudstone and more like the petrified imprint of a body. Spirit was sent there to look for sediments, to study rocks laid down long ago in that lake. But the pattern suggested something far greater, the mineralized remains of a complex organism, multicellular, with a body plan remarkably similar to ours. Not a single-celled organism, not a smear of slime, but a creature with blood chemistry, skeletal material, and connective tissue. Publicly, NASA called it a first-of-its-kind biosignature. Privately, some scientists began calling it something else, the Rosetta Stone of Mars. Over the next year, they tested it relentlessly. Data was beamed back to Earth, simulations were run, every possible natural process considered. Nothing explained it. The pattern was too neat, too exact. The chemistry was far too advanced to be an accident of nature. The deeper the analysis went, the more bizarre it became. The carbon channels revealed a triple spiral molecule, like DNA, but with 3 strands instead of 2, perfectly symmetrical in arrangement. When the positions of the dots were processed with advanced computer modeling, the pattern spelled out a clear sequence of prime numbers. Nature doesn't count in primes, minds do. Back on Earth, the scientists tried every explanation they could imagine. Might acidic water make these minerals? Could heating work? Could cooling cycles carve the pattern? Could the Martian mud have triggered an unidentified reaction to build these huge molecules? Each answer came back no. Step by step, the obvious explanations gave way. Consequently, more and more scientists began to believe Perseverance had drilled out not the trace of a germ, but the frozen fingerprint of a civilization. The rock was a piece of fossilized technology, lost but traceable. Similar to an embedded black box, the mud had existed long before Earth had formed. Mars, once regarded as dead, the twin of our world, had been home to something intelligent, something capable of engineering life at a molecular level. If this is true, it changes the whole story of our solar system. Back a billion years, when Earth was still glowing molten and unformed, Mars had oceans, clouds, and an atmosphere thick enough to keep out deadly radiation. Yet new readings of Mars' crust show chemical traces and scars that hint at why life there may have been lost. Perhaps it was a catastrophe from space. During the late heavy bombardment, giant asteroids slammed into Mars, melting parts of its crust and blowing enormous chunks of atmosphere into space. If a thriving Martian civilization had been clustered around low-lying seas, a single impact in the wrong place could have unleashed tsunamis, firestorms, and a planetoid dust cloud. The loss of atmosphere would have accelerated, plunging the climate into an ice age within decades. Civilization could have collapsed almost overnight, leaving behind only buried fragments like the one Perseverance is now examining. Another theory, however, is self-inflicted annihilation. Crater chains and isotopic anomalies shown on seismic maps can be read as evidence of massive nuclear events. If the Martians developed energy technology on a planetary scale, whether fusion, antimatter, or some unknown physics, they might have weaponized it. War, or even a catastrophic experiment gone wrong, could have collapsed their magnetic field or burned away their atmosphere. This scenario turns Mars into a mirror for humanity, a warning that intelligence doesn't guarantee survival, and that technology in the wrong hands can erase an entire biosphere. And then there's a third, even more terrifying, notion that Mars was not destroyed by nature or by its own hand, but by someone else. Some crater chains on Mars are aligned like targeting grids. Some mineral deposits appear fused together as though by focused energy. If another, more powerful extraterrestrial species had passed through the solar system, Mars may have been a test site or a battlefield. Perhaps the Martians refused to surrender a resource or harbor a weapon. Perhaps they were wiped out as part of a larger cosmic conflict. If true, the patterns etched into Sapphire Canyon could be more than a warning. They could be a plea, a record of what happened, or even a trap left behind to alert its makers when we finally uncover it. The repercussions are staggering. If life began here, it began not as microbes, but as makers. If Mars birthed intelligence before Earth, then we are not the first thinking beings of the solar system, but the descendants of a dead neighbor's legacy. And if their end was violent, then the pattern is not just a record, it is a warning carved into bedrock. Arthur C. Clarke once wrote that to possibilities exist, either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both, he said, are equally terrifying. But there may be a third possibility, even more terrifying still, that we are not alone, and yet the others died screaming, their warnings awaiting us since the beginning. NASA now plans to bring the sample home. The Mars Sample Return Program, a prototype fetch vehicle, an orbiter, and an ascent vehicle, will collect the tubes Perseverance has stored and deliver them to Earth in the 2030s. Sapphire Canyon will be one of them. It will arrive sealed in multiple layers of containment and opened only in a lab designed for that purpose. Several at JPL say it should never be opened at all. Some argue it should never even have been brought back. Yet billions of dollars are already spent, and curiosity is a force no agency can stop. Late one night, Perseverance's cameras recorded something odd. The power drill arm, lowered to the ground, moved slightly, etching a shallow spiral into the dust of Mars near the rover. The spiral matched a hidden pattern in the carbon channels of Sapphire Canyon. The engineers called it a glitch, but the spiral turned inside out as though marking a location below the crater floor. What lies beneath Ye-Zero? A reactor? Another slab? A vault? A sleeper chamber? No one knows. For now, titanium has sealed the rock inside its tube, waiting for us to decide whether to leave it where it lies or carry it across the gulf between two worlds. If we bring it back, we may finally discover the truth about who came before us and why they vanished. But we may also awaken something our species is not ready to face. So, what do you think? Could life have once thrived on Mars as an advanced civilization? Share your ideas in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more space mysteries and discoveries.